Welcome to Mercurius Being. I am Amy Jensen here with your astro update for tomorrow's Scorpio new moon, exact at 3:27 a.m. Central Time here in the United States. So this is the chart for the lunation, but depending on where you are, as always, the configuration might be a bit different. But what I'll mostly be talking about today is the moon and the sun joining for the new moon in Scorpio, with Mars right in the mix, Mercury leading the way, bringing the light, opposing Uranus. Okay, Uranus opposed Mars exactly on 11/11, just this Saturday. 10:38 p.m. Central Time on Saturday. Yeah, just yesterday. I've been all kinds of time and spacing around here lately. So I'm in Minnesota, a time change. It's already dark. We're heading into the darkest part of the year. We're there. So I was driving last night. A little chipmunk is joining us over there. Driving last night in the dark, driving early this morning in the dark. So I'm a little like, I don't know what day it is. I'm on a different time and space plane, but at any rate, Mars and Uranus conjuncted exactly Saturday night, 11/11, 10:38 p.m. Central Time. Uranus and the sun will be opposing each other exactly on the same day of the new moon, which is tomorrow, 11/13. So the new moon is at 3:27 a.m. Central, and the Uranus opposed the sun exactly is at 11:03 a.m. So my job from this point on is to add some elucidation, add some simplification to all of that, which I just said. All of that, which I just said. Okay, let's go forward. So, new moons are all about releasing the old, new beginnings, planting new seeds, planting and having new intentions. But it is the dark portion of the moon. You know, the balsamic moon phase is done. The dark phase goes into the new moon, which is complete darkness. And in this darkness, we plant those new intentions. We plant the new seeds. For me, it always seems as if when there's just a slight sliver of the moon that we can actually see in the heavens, then things start to move forward. So this time of really the darkest dark, as we are in the Northern Hemisphere, in one of the darkest signs, I would say, Scorpio, and by that I never mean any negative connotation to dark. In my mind, as you can see, we've got shadows and light behind me, and that's all this is with Scorpio. But it's an opportunity to go into the dark, the opportunity to go into one's power. Scorpio ruling death and rebirth, endings and beginnings. Pluto, the ruler of Scorpio, symbolizing power and transformation, that phoenix-like energy of death and rebirth, transmutation. This is a season, so Scorpio began, now I'm thinking back, was it the 23rd or the 22nd of October? At any rate, this is the time of the year, Scorpio, when the veils are thin. So we have All Saints Day, November 1st, All Souls Day, November 2nd, the Cross Quarter Day. Some people say that's Halloween/Samhain. I always think of it as like 15 degrees Scorpio, which would be 45 degrees away from the vernal, autumnal equinox, which would be 0 degrees Libra. So the cross quarter day was November 7th. And then today, here at the 13th or the 12th for some, the beginning of the Diwali the season of lights, the celebration of light, the lighting of the lamp or row of lights, Hindu celebration, which symbolizes the beating of inertia, symbolizes clarity, as in light and clarity, honoring or offerings to Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth and abundance. And I'll flip back into Pluto, 8th house here with that thought. Celebration of Lakshmi and Vishnu's marriage is one of the symbolisms. Mother Kali, which is the dark, and she is the dark goddess in Hindu mythology or pantheon. Ganesha, another meaning of Diwali, is a celebration of Ganesha, the elephant-headed deity of wisdom, the one who places obstacles in your path, but also helps remove the obstacles. And it's also a celebration of the return of Lord Rama, along with Sita, after they were gone for several years, and in those several years, vanquished the demon god Ravana. So there's a vanquishing of the dark, a bringing of the light, a celebration of the wealth, and Pluto, the planet Pluto, comes from the Greek Pluton, which means wealth. And it is the wealth that is within each of us. So Scorpio, the ancient ruler or traditional ruler, Mars, which, as I mentioned, is right with the sun and moon, right with the opposition of Uranus in this chart. So there's a lot of power. Pluto ruling power, wealth that is within. So the 8th house is also symbolically ruled by, or naturally ruled by, Pluto, Scorpio, and it is the polarity of the 2nd house of Taurus, of your individual wealth and your resources, and then the 8th house is the wealth you share with others, so it can rule inheritance, insurance, banking, banking kind of Taurus actually, but psychological sharing, hospice, the crossing of veils that way, crossing of veils in hospice, in death, and intimate sharing. This could be psychological intimate sharing with friends. It can be sexuality and sharing your deepest self and that sacred space with another. So the other 8th house symbolism. So it's a very potent house, the 8th house. It's a very powerful house. It's a house where we feel very vulnerable in, because we are intimately sharing that which is truly ourselves, or truly naked, or truly authentic. Okay, it in that case has the connotation of manipulation with it, with the psychological overlay, the vulnerability overlay, the sexuality overlay. So there's this power that we're negotiating in the 8th house. So Libra is all about balancing and the scales, and it's an air sign. It's a very up in the air. It's a very out in the open. So Pluto, Scorpio, brings us way down. Pluto was the ruler of the underground, the underworld, the death realm, Hades, the hell realm, all of that, one could say. And as you see behind me, actually it doesn't look too bad right now, but we're into fall here. So Pluto has taken Persephone down into the other world, into the underworld, for 6 months. So we have this 6-month period of time where the earth goes into rest, where Demeter or Ceres went into mourning initially, but releasing that. So there's a sense of loss, surrender, and release, which accompany this time. And I really digressed a bit, but this is, like I said, a time for the veils to be thin. It's a time to look into and through. I'm going to start with some of the Sabian symbols for this lunation using Lynda Hill's book, the Sabian Oracle. We're going to start with the sun and moon. They're at 20 degrees Scorpio, 43 minutes, round that up to 21. And the symbol for this degree is obeying his conscience, a soldier resists orders. I'm going to the oracle section here. We sometimes find that society has drawn up rules and regulations to live by that are inappropriate for our inner world. When this happens, we find ourselves compromised if we are expected to follow through or act on them. This symbol speaks of the need to occasionally disobey the structures of society and what is expected. You may find yourself in a situation where expectations put on you go directly against your values. There is often the difficult choice between allegiance to a relationship, a job, or a country, etc., and your own inner beliefs, truths, objectives, and ambitions. True freedom can only be found within when one faces these situations with a sense of integrity and a full understanding of the consequences that are possible. Are you aware of and prepared for any consequences that may come from a refusal to comply or conform to what others want? What punishments may come from refusing to obey orders? What are the orders? Who makes them? And who is responsible for them when they're carried out? There can be confusion around relationships, resulting in difficulties in following what society says should be done. Is it a longing for a return to a pure state of love that freezes you? Are you prepared to stand your ground and uphold your values? So, that is the degree at which the sun and moon are at. The degree at which Mars in Scorpio is at is a rabbit metamorphosed into a nature spirit. The oracle section again. You may find yourself having a transformative realization that will take your focus away from your more basic animal instincts to a more spiritual level of perception. Your vital energies may remain constant, but the way in which these respond to the environment can change considerably. Issues such as battling for survival can become less important. Life takes on a different purpose, and new and more liberating ways of acting in the world become available. In shifting from a focus on the lower chakras, physical and sexual, to the higher chakras, the third eye and the crown, we move closer to our relationship with the universal energy that motivates and inspires us. This transformation can lead to a calmer way of living, or perhaps a more specialized state of being. This can happen through having some kind of religious experience, such as an epiphany, where we can find that life changes on many levels, leaving us somehow different and unable to go back to our old ways of being and relating. Welcoming this new state of being can lead to incredible layers of perception unfolding, transforming life into a higher vibration and making life more worthwhile. So, opposing those points, and as I was doing this, as I started, I'm like, there's not much I'm writing about today. And then it just got to be more and more. So I promise it'll wrap up. It'll come together. So the degree at which Uranus, so the god of lightning bolts and earthquakes and sudden insights and inspiration, opposing the sun and the moon, the luminaries, and opposing Mars in the heavens, this is where Uranus is at. So Uranus is at 22 Taurus, Sabian symbol, a white dove flying straight and fearlessly over troubled waters. The oracle section. This symbol shows the need for hope and help to be delivered to those who need it. Although there may be trouble all around, you will be able to rise above it and find safe ground. Even though you may be lost from your loved one's sight for a while and they may feel abandoned, you will eventually return to them safely. Alternatively, you may be guiding them to safety and reassurance, or they may be returning to you. Bringing hope, sustenance, and comfort to others is a blessing to all involved. The dove of this symbol, by flying straight and fearlessly, brings the message to stay on course, go straight ahead, And don't worry about what's happening around you. Soon there will be a signal of better times and relief from your concerns. Oftentimes, it's not possible for us to see what is just beyond our sight. Whether we're looking into the future or trying to understand the present, if things that are outside of your control or influence trouble you, then you may need to ask for a message that will reassure you. The dove is often portrayed as a spirit and symbol of the soul. Try sending out a dove from your spiritual center and ask for what you require in order to bring things back to safe ground again. Equally, you may need to send a message to those who are feeling left out and needing love and assistance. Okay. So, already in those three symbols, we have the soldier listening in to his or her own values and obeying that higher order. We have a rabbit moving into a higher realm as a nature spirit, and a dove bringing hope, bringing things back, sending out messages, receiving messages. So a very hopeful array of symbols as we move into this dark, as we release the old, as we have our endings, and before we kind of can see the light of the beginnings that are to come. So this is the new moon of Scorpio. We are 15 degrees after the full moon in Taurus, a lunar eclipse, which was the last eclipse in the Taurus Scorpio pairing, which began November 19th of 2021. So we're kind of closing that chapter, but still moving past. So this lunation again is at 20 degrees Scorpio, 43 minutes. So we still have, 9 degrees Scorpio to complete. So the ruler again is Pluto. And at this lunation, there are no aspects to Pluto. So Pluto, it has a square to the nodes, but as far as other planets, it doesn't have any aspects. So we call that a pilgrim, a peregrine planet, easy for me to say. So it is especially strong at this time. So again, there's just, I'm getting just a lot, there's just a lot of strength. There is a lot of strength present in this lunation. Venus in Libra, I'm running through the aspects now. Venus in Libra just has a semi-square to the lunations, and I say just because it's a minor aspect, but it's a little check-in. Venus in Libra rules Libra. Venus also rules Taurus. Taurus is the sign that Uranus and Jupiter is in, and as I said, the last full moon in Taurus, that was ruled by Venus as well. So Venus is in her morning star phase. She's in, as Adam Gainsburg calls it, her surrendering and discovery phase. And I'll put a link to Adam's work on the bottom of this video. So Venus is high and bright in the morning, increasing in speed, increasing in her distance away from the Earth. This sense of surrendering and discovery, this, I think it's a 175-day cycle, or part of her full cycle, is where we all, whatever gender we identify with, our Venus sense of embodiment, we are losing, we are surrendering, we are taking away our attachment to our ego, and our habitual assumptions of the garments and the ornaments that we wear and how we embody ourselves and embodiment. And in that losing of our preconceptions and our egoic identifications, we will discover who we really are, and that part of ourselves which can never be lost, our individual and collective sense of embodiments. So again, she's just got a little bit of a check-in with this, so she's present. As I said, Mars is conjunct the sun and the moon, and Mars and Uranus just had the opposition. And okay, what else did I write about that? Oh, so Mars and Uranus conjuncted, so the beginning of their cycle together. Always, any planets begins with a conjunction, and that was back in August of 2022 at 18 degrees and change of Taurus, rounded up to 19. I'll hit that Sabian symbol as well. But at that time, it was Uranus, Mars, and the North Node in Taurus all together. Like I said, 18 degrees and some minutes. So, heightening assertiveness, courageousness, which is Mars. Mars inharmonious is anger and aggression, war, conflict. Again, harmoniously, assertiveness, good boundaries, good sense of your physical self. So conjuncting Uranus at that time. Uranus, again, the planet of disruption, the planet of sudden insights, the planet of instability, this planet of explosiveness. Expect the unexpected, but then anytime you do, nothing happens. So that's always interesting. You just can't count on what you're going to get with Uranus. And then with the North Node in Taurus. And we've just finished that again. We're moving into the Aries Libra polarity. We have been since April. I've talked about that in other videos. Really coming into our own values in Taurus, the heart center, what you value, what your resources are, your self-worth, and putting your energy into that. Simplifying, enjoying our embodiment. And this new moon in Scorpio, with now Uranus opposing Mars in this cycle, Uranus opposing this lunation, it really gives us this insight, you know, kind of that sudden insight or disruption or instability into, or irritability. Like, yeah, it's a lot of quick energy with Uranus and breaking free. Freedom, autonomy, authenticity, any of those things, rebelliousness, are all Uranian. So this new moon is really allowing us insight into our habits, into our subconscious beliefs. This is all going back into Scorpio. Power, lack of power, manipulation, self-sabotaging behaviors, which really keep us from breaking free, cutting through. So I'm going to read the symbol for the time a year ago when Mars and Uranus conjuncted, which is began the cycle, 19 Taurus. A new continent is rising out of the ocean. The oracle. It might feel as if it's coming out of nowhere, which would be very Uranian, or from somewhere you didn't expect. However, things have probably been building up for some time. Perhaps you saw it coming, or maybe you weren't aware that the changes would go as far as they have. But one thing's for sure, it's coming from somewhere deep within your emotional and spiritual development. There is a promise of rewards and brand new beginnings. However, this is probably only the beginning. There is much work to be done developing this possibility into something fertile and productive. Observe and learn from the things that are erupting into your consciousness and your conscious reality. You will, or you will have to, find that extra spark to create a brand new, original opportunity. What is possible and what is not will become more obvious as time goes by. You may feel a little alienated to this new continent or sphere of activity, but that's only relative to the conditions of what it is that you're leaving behind. So a little more of that surrendering and discovery, but in a different planetary aspect, in different planets. There has probably been a recent period of throwing out things that haven't worked or cluttered up your life and have been in the way of your forward growth. What you've done or achieved in the past has led to this, but these new beginnings need to be met with a fresh sense of purpose, confidence, and possibility. So that's the symbol attached to the beginning of the Mars-Uranus cycle. Now Mars and Uranus are opposing each other halfway through their cycle. And so it's like, what do you need to do? What do you need to give up? What do you need to clear out so that this new continent can emerge and arise out of the ocean? Okay, let's go back to the aspects. So as I said, Uranus and the Sun will also be making an exact opposition the day of the new moon, which will be shaking up and disrupting. You're going to be questioning what's black and white, which is Taurus. You know, no gray area. Things are pretty clear. It's good, it's bad, it's black and white, and this or that. Okay? And then what's gray in Scorpio? Because as we know, everything is multi-layered, multi-hued, multi-leveled. So Uranus and the Sun together, shaking up, waking up, rapid, unexpected change, unpredictable. All right, we're heading into deep waters with Scorpio. Okay, so I always talk about Pisces as being big water, big oceanic waves. And to me, Scorpio rules river water, but I think of the rivers of the underworld when I think of Scorpio. So deep water, deep currents that are within each of us that we either listen to or don't listen to, but are there nonetheless, and have a habit of having their banks flood and having emotionality rise up out of seemingly nowhere. But it might be something, resentment or something you've been holding on to for a long time, or again, something that it's just time to let go of, something that needs changing. All right. So the areas of the heavens where these are taking place, I'm going to be very simple in this. The area that the Sun, the Moon, and Mars are in is all about focus, the energy of focus. And really both areas of the heavens are about focus. Sun and Moon and Mars are in the area of, I would say, like the archer's focus, a one-pointedness, a decisiveness, distinctively decisive, I believe is how Komilla Sutton, could have been DiCara, I'll note it in the bottom, described this area of the heavens. So it's the area of the heavens and the energy of Arjuna, the archer. When he would point his bow and arrow, he would only see the target, only see the area at which he was shooting, and everything else would fade out. So it's that level of focus, distinctively decisiveness. And then the area where Uranus is at is the area of cutting away. It's the area of incisiveness, cutting through problems and through confusion, gaining insight. As I said, Pluto, the ruler of Scorpio, is a pilgrim. It's peregrine at this time, so it's very strong. It's kind of on its own, right? It is also going direct. It started moving direct. I wrote November 10th, and I feel like I wrote that down wrong. Anyway, Pluto's direct. No, it is right. Okay, Pluto's direct, and it'll go back into Aquarius the end of January, January 21st. Saturn is also direct at 0 degrees Pisces, and it just went to direct November 4th. And I got the image when I wrote both of those down. It's like an audio clip of all of these strings coming in, and it might even be at the beginning of movie credit. I can't remember if it's a certain company that does that, but it's like this big, like orchestral sound, and then it's like tuned up. So it's so it's like tuned up a half step, a step. It's like those energies are coming online. And Pluto and Saturn, even though Saturn is in Pisces, Saturn rules Capricorn, where Pluto's at. There's just a lot of power. There's directness. Things are coming online, is the way I felt. So regaining your focus, the energy of focus, regaining your focus, the foundational energies are going forward and tuning up and aligning. Some other aspects, Mercury, which is leading the way, It's at 4 degrees 41 minutes of Sagittarius, so it's ahead of the sun. It's the light bearer, so it's the logic is coming before the energy and the light of the sun. Lighting the way in Sagittarius, the archer, the sign of the archer. So again, the implication of focusing and directing one's energies. Sagittarius is all about the big picture, okay? The sign of the archer, looking ahead. And I've been thinking a lot lately, so we've got 9 degrees and change left of Scorpio. Then we have 30 degrees of Sag, we have 30 degrees of, well, before the end of the calendar year, we only have like 9 degrees, 10 degrees of Capricorn. So we're really at the end of this calendar year, of course. And of course, I think of Capricorn, really the solstice, as the beginning of the year. So I'm getting the big picture that it's time to look into the big picture as we dig deep into the last degrees of Scorpio. Cleaning up, throwing away, clearing out, going into the wealth you have within yourself and within all of your resources. Then Sagittarius, have the big picture. Go to the mountaintop. Go on a pilgrimage. Look at your goals. Look out into the future. Look out into the distance. After or concurrently with going deep within yourself into your gut, into the third chakra, the Manipura, where Scorpio and Aries reside. And Mars rules Aries, and we've got a couple other things going on in Aries. And Manipura means it's the navel chakra, it's the third chakra, translates as the city of jewels. So that again ties back to the meaning of Pluto or Pluton, the Greek word of wealth. So we have this wealth within us, okay? So are you transmuting and transforming your base energies to higher refined concepts, not unlike the Sabian symbol we talked about, to higher, more refined energies, or the act of cutting or faceting the raw stones, the raw material of yourself, of oneself, transforming, transmuting, and then offering your process as kindling to the fire of your awareness. Some other aspects, we have the North Node in Aries, just an inconjunct to the Sun and Moon, so another minor aspect, but still kind of like a little ding. Again, Aries, the other half of the Manipura chakra. We have Chiron, the wounded healer in Aries, with the creative aspect to Mars, ruler of Aries, also traditional ruler of Scorpio, again, all in the navel chakra. And that Mars Aries energy is straightforward, cardinal fire energy. And that I amness of Aries coming out of the allness of Pisces. So there's a sense of having courage, being fearful, but the courage overrides the fear, coming out as yourself, having boundaries and safety, that good Aries energy, the physicality of Aries really being in your body, holy, W-H-O-L-L-Y, well, I guess H-O-L-Y as well, and enlivened. And again, the North Node is our evolutionary path. This 1.5 year period of collectively, we are experiencing the nodes in Aries and Libra, balancing self and other, boundaries, relationships. I've talked about that in other videos. So that healing fire is present to fuel the alchemical process we could undertake within ourselves at this lunation. There's just a lot of potency. There's a lot of potential. And I wrote that down here, so I'm kind of ruining my own punchline. Okay, the Sun, Moon, and Mars are really exploding, maybe too, the polarity and the potency at this lunation. The potency of the last decan, the last 10 degrees of Scorpio. So this third decan of Scorpio is ruled by Cancer, the moon, So the Cancer moon presence is going to add a little layer of sensitivity, of emotionality, of intuition. It adds a little softness, and the word that came up in a couple sources was charm, adding a little charm, softening that Scorpio intensity that we may all be familiar with, by adding that layer of the moon and Cancer. Family, those we hold very close in relationships, have a great importance and a great influence, loyal and loving, but the energy, so in this area of Scorpio, the family, loving relationships have that support, but also the energy of like rescinding it as well. So there's just that little layer to exploring trust in relationships, I would say, with this area and last degrees of Scorpio. Uranus is exploring the last 10 degrees of the last decan of Taurus. Again, the word charm was used in the sources I was reading. Beauty was again mentioned, but inflexibility. So Scorpio, Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, all fixed signs. And so as an Aquarius, you know, we have a bit of fixity, we have a bit of inflexibility, one would say. And with this last part of Taurus, it has a Capricorn overlay. So there's a little bit Capricorn Saturn, which is polarity as well with the moon and Cancer. So whereas there's a softness and an intuition added, kind of sprinkled over the Scorpio energies, we have a little Capricorn Saturn energy sprinkled over Uranus and Saturn. So that's going to give it a little more foundational energy, a little more emphasis on being focused again and patient, which really doesn't align with the Uranus. So it's an interesting juxtaposition. So I would just translate that as having a little extra earthiness behind it. Let's put it that way. A little bit of more of a pillar behind it. More rock to that earth. Okay. More stone rock to the earth, the ground. So kind of this inflexibility standoff, I would say, between these energies, between the Uranus and Taurus and the Sun, Moon, Mars in Scorpio. The potential of something popping off because of that, something exploding. Positively, something very deeply entrenched could finally move and be broken free from its long encrusted stasis, which again was something that popped up when I was looking up some of the info about Diwali. The symbol of beating inertia, that tamas, we would say, the darkness, the stuckness. Okay, so that would be the harmonious aspect of like using this energy to break free. And like I said, there's a great deal of potentiality and very potent energy. So as I've talked about before, astrology is a study of cycles and patterns and energies. It's a sense of knowing yourself. It's a tool for knowing yourself. And it's a tool of timing. So where are each of us in our cycle and pattern and energy, and where are we collectively in the context of the larger ongoing cycles and patterns and energies, and knowing as always that nothing is a have to, everything is a can or a get to or a possibility, and we all have a lot of potential for change and growth. However, we do not always utilize our potential. Our mind, or rather my mind, my habits, let's see, my mind, my habits, my emotions get in the way. Perhaps yours do as well, okay? We might numb, we might delay, we might not engage or take an opportunity when it is presented to us. And we all have many different forms of karma available to us. But in the light of all of that, in this wonderful world that we live in, there is always opportunity. There is a recognition of patterns. an honoring of each of our own individual intuition and knowingness, and then the ability to take action. So at this Scorpio lunation with Uranus, the god of earthquakes and sudden insights, I invite you all to focus, to cut through, to understand your motivations, gain insight into the motivation and manipulation present within our outer systems, other people, and within ourselves. And then direct your energies. Okay? Uranus, Jupiter are in Taurus, in the heart center. Venus is in Libra, which is in the heart center. The anahata, the unstruck note or the unstruck chord, and sometimes it's referred to as unhurt or unbeaten, the anahata chakra, the heart chakra. The unstruck chord is space and silence, and out of that space and silence, and within that space and silence, is sound, is potential, but everything absorbing back into that silent but rich and full heart space. So what deep gem of love and primal beingness wants to bubble up and blossom into your heart center? Let this Uranus and Taurus opposing Sun and Moon and Mars, and then the Uranus opposing the Sun, be like a jolt to your heart's desires, your own symbolic and personal AED, awakening you out of your slumber and into the dream of your life. Until next time, have a wonderful lunation, and thank you for joining me, and I really appreciate your support. Namaste.